We are so back. We made nearly 17 units on MLB Futures last season, and I hope to continue that hot streak into 2025. Some of the highlights: Miami Marlins under 78.5 wins. That was the biggest bet of my entire life, and it hit with ease. We also hit Brewers plus 800 to win the National League Central. Tarek Skubal plus 1100 to win the American League Cy Young, and so many more. I'm going to have plenty of futures for you this season, but in this video, this is part one of what should be part two, part three. You're going to get a ton of futures, but in this video, let's discuss for 2025 the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Boston Red Sox. And before we get started, remember, you can find all of these picks on BetMGM. Those are going to be the lines that I'm referencing. This is where I make my plays. So make sure to use promo code JUSTBASEBALL when you sign up in order to get all of those odds boosts, tons of different promotional offers. And if you're down to ride with me, again, make sure code JUSTBASEBALL on BetMGM. All right, we're going to start with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they've been fantastic for 2 years straight, and I believe they're going to make it a third. Remember, they went to the World Series in 2023 and then narrowly missed the playoffs in 24, finishing 89-73. They had the best run differential of any wildcard team, but didn't end up making it. Granted, it was a challenging year to make the playoffs. Their division rivals, right? The Padres, the Dodgers were the two best teams in the National League. The Braves and the Mets also turned in awesome seasons. This season, though, they added big time pieces, and there's more than a few reasons to believe this Diamondbacks team is going to be one of the best in all of baseball in 2025. So let's start with some big additions and subtractions. Corbin Burnes, the biggest free agent pitcher on the market, signed a 6-year deal with Arizona to be the team's new ace. Burnes has been the model of consistency over the last couple of seasons. He won the Cy Young in 2021 with Milwaukee, and over the next 3 seasons, he's averaging 197 innings at a 3.08 ERA. Burnes, though, did see a slight decline in his strikeout stuff over these last 3 seasons, but the production is still awesome, right? He was near the tops of Stuff Plus last year. And he's still just 30 years old. Plenty of great years in front of him, and 2025 should be much of the same of what we've seen from 2021 to 2024. They also added first baseman Josh Naylor in a trade with the Cleveland Guardians in exchange for right-handed pitcher Slade Ciccone and a competitive balance pick. Now, losing Christian Walker is definitely tough, right? But adding the 27-year-old Naylor kind of plugs that hole immediately, right? Naylor outproduced Walker last year in home runs, 31 versus 26, and they had almost an identical WRC plus, 118 versus 119. Walker is the better defender, but they won't sacrifice much at the plate. But a big blow is losing Jock Peterson in this lineup. While he predominantly faced right-handed pitching, crushed baseballs last year to a 151 WRC plus with 23 home runs. They also lost Josh Bell, who just played 41 games for him, but it's important to note that they did lose him. He put up a 123 WRC plus with 5 home runs. Not a significant loss, but a loss nonetheless. The next section I want to talk about is players I'm high on, because we all know that the Diamondbacks have plenty of stars, right? To survive in the National League, you need guys like Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Corbin Burnes, and Zach Allen. But to thrive, you need a couple of other players to take those leaps to complement these stars, and the Diamondbacks have those in droves. I want to start with Gabriel Moreno, catcher. He was acquired by Arizona from the Blue Jays right a few years ago, and at the time, he was one of the best prospects in baseball. He's coming off a season where he only played 97 games, did accumulate 2.5 WAR, an improvement from 2023 where he played 111 games at a 2.3 WAR. Now he's 25 years old, and he's prime for a breakout to establish himself as one of the best catchers overall in baseball, right? I believe in the bat due to making elite swing decisions. He walked north of 11% of the time while striking out less than 15%. He's not a significant power threat, but he can hit close to 300 with strong defense behind the plate. And he's one of the few catchers in all of baseball that ranked near the top in framing metrics last season, while also having one of the best pop times behind home plate. He's been solid in his first couple of seasons with Arizona, but I expect a big leap for him in 25. The next player up is Brandon Pfaadt, starting pitcher. Now, he burst onto the scene in 2022 after he led AAA in strikeouts. Got his first shot in the big leagues as a 24-year-old in 2023, and the results weren't really there. It was kind of an up and down rookie campaign, honestly. I lost some money betting on him, I'm not going to lie to you. But in 2024, we saw what could be a well above average starting pitcher. He did pitch to a 4.71 ERA, but if you look at every single one of his underlying ERA predictors, he had his ERA below 4, right? He struck out a batter per inning, finished in the 87th percentile in walk rate. He gave up hard contact at kind of an average rate, but opponents had a 315 batting average on balls in play against him. That was the fifth highest mark in all of baseball. With over 250 innings now under his belt, I expect him to finish with an ERA below 4, which would vault him into one of the best 4 starters in all of baseball, right? Because he's already backing up Corbin Burns, Zach Allen, Merrill Kelly, right? This can form one of the best rotations in the sport. The next player on this list is another pitcher to round out this rotation. And again, this is why I'm so high on the Diamondbacks, Ryan Nelson. Now, the Diamondbacks are likely going to start with Eduardo Rodriguez in the rotation, but they should find a trade partner because Ryan Nelson deserves this role. The Diamondbacks sustained a few injuries, kind of leading to Nelson getting an entire runway as a starter in the second half. He was arguably Arizona's best arm in this stretch, pitching to a 3.23 ERA in 67 innings with a 21% strikeout minus walk ratio, which would have been ninth in all of baseball if he kept it up throughout the entire season. He has a ton of upside as a 5-starter, and if he reaches his ceiling, the Diamondbacks rotation is a nightmare for opposing teams. All right, in our next section, let's talk about this Arizona Diamondbacks offense because the 2024 version was elite. They tied for third with the Orioles in WRC Plus at 115, right? 15% better than the league average offense. And they had the second highest OPS in all of baseball, only trailing their division rival Dodgers. There is reason to believe that this team, at least on the offensive side, can be as good as last year, even though they lost Jock Peterson and they lost Christian Walker. We already discussed the addition of Josh Naylor, the emergence of Gabriel Moreno taking that next step. But really, I'm looking at this team's catalyst, Corbin Carroll. I know batting average isn't the biggest deal in the world, right? Nobody really cares about it in the world of baseball anymore, but we can't agree that's completely out of the norm and will not happen again. He dealt with a shoulder injury that really hurt him in the first half, especially, putting up a 635 OPS. But then once he got comfortable again, he put up a 919 OPS in the second half. As long as he stays healthy, he's awesome, and he's healthy this year. We don't even have to talk about Ketel Marte coming off 36 jacks as a freak of nature. But players like Eugenio Suarez kind of often fall off the radar. Did you know that Jose Ramirez and Eugenio Suarez were the only third baseman in all of baseball to put up at least a 3.8 WAR and 30 home runs? I'm also excited to see how Pavin Smith performs next year. He put up a 142 WRC plus. That's 42% better than league average in 2024. That wasn't far off from Jock Peterson last year, albeit in far less action. But they brought back Randall Grichuk, that right-handed platoon bat, and I think those two can create something similar to what Arizona had last year. Right, Grichuk put up a 914 OPS against lefties. Smith, 920 OPS against righties. Both of those metrics are from last year. And then really rounding out the team, I mean, you got Geraldo Perdomo. They just signed him to an extension. He's an excellent shortstop on the defensive side. And maybe he has a decent season offensively. He's always been kind of hit or miss. But let's say things go awry. They have Jordan Lawler, one of the best shortstop prospects in all of baseball. Even Aram, our prospect guru, wrote in his write-up for Jordan Lawler that he shows shades of Trey Turner. So regardless, they're in a good spot at shortstop. I expect this offense to kind of take a small step back, right? Losing Walker, losing Peterson is tough, but they're still going to be in the top 10 this season. And they have plenty of power, ability to steal bases, bunt, move runners over. It's a very dynamic offense that's really tough to beat. Next up, let's look at their starting pitching. And I love Arizona this season because of how improved the rotation is. Did you know that Arizona starting pitchers finished 27th in ERA last year? It's horrible. If they were just average, this is a no-doubt playoff team in 2024. And do you know why they stunk? Remember Jordan Montgomery? Threw 117 innings for them last season at a 6.23 ERA. Among pitchers with at least 110 innings, that was the single worst by ERA. Merrill Kelly, injured, only threw 73 innings. Eduardo Rodriguez was terrible, 5 ERA, and hurt, only 50 innings. Gallen spent time on the IL and only threw 148 innings at a 3.65 ERA, both worst marks since 2021. The only pitcher in that rotation, really the only qualified one, Brandon Pfaadt, coming off a really unlucky 2024 campaign. Now, this rotation adds one of the best arms in the sport in Corbin Burns. Zach Gallen threw 210 innings in the regular season in 2023 and a full workload in the playoffs. So it's understandable that he would have a rougher year in 2024. We literally bet on his under strikeouts line last year, which cashed. This year, he returns fresh after just 146 innings with no additional lift in the playoffs. Merrill Kelly threw 177 innings to a 3.29 ERA in 2023. I watched the man pitch for Team USA down there in the World Baseball Classic in Miami. I don't expect him to replicate that type of season, but 150 innings at a high threes, well within reach. And that would be even a significant improvement from last year. Brandon Pfaadt takes that leap, Ryan Nelson locks down the fifth spot, and Eduardo Rodriguez can fill in when needed, or they could just trade him. And they also have Dre Jameson, right, who has a 2.63 ERA in 65 career innings, but he had Tommy John surgery in September of 2023, so he should make another full return in 2025. So while this rotation finishes 27th in ERA last year, I wouldn't be shocked if they finish within the top 10 among all starting rotations in Major League Baseball. In our last section, let's look at this bullpen because the pitching woes last year for Arizona wasn't just in the rotation. The bullpen finished 25th in ERA, but the talent level in this bullpen should never be in that spot. But when your starter gets pulled early, you get a lot of filler innings, and those don't end up going all that well. They did make a move last trade deadline for Marlins pitcher A.J. Puck, who all he needed to do was find his footing in the bullpen. He was arguably baseball's best reliever in the second half. He put up a diabolical 36% strikeout minus walk ratio. 36% strikeout rate is absurd. That was his strikeout minus walk ratio. 1.32 ERA. An entire season of him, that lefty, combined with a righty and Justin Martinez throwing 103, and he also put up a 2.48 ERA in 72 innings in 2024. D-backs fans, I think we're dreaming on one of the best back-end duos in Major League Baseball. And we can't forget mainstays. Kevin Ginkel shoves all the time. Ryan Thompson shoves all the time. But they also have intriguing arms, right? They add Kendall Graveman, not far removed from being an actual good closer in Major League Baseball, and Shelby Miller, right? Again, Graveman has closer upside, but is coming off an injury. Shelby Miller he'll be fine. Whatever. But then, of course, you can't forget about 2022 All-Star, Joe Mantiply. But again, it's not a bad bullpen. It's probably a middle-of-the-road bullpen, very, very top-heavy, and then it kind of drops off a little bit. But it's still really solid, and if they have a lead, they can go Thompson, Ginkel, Puck, Martinez, game over. And my overall outlook is that the Diamondbacks, their owner, Ken Kendrick, I'm looking at you, dude. You were awesome. You put your money where your mouth is this offseason, and I cannot be more excited for this team. This offense could be a top 5 unit, probably in the top 10. Well, definitely in the top 10. And the rotation just has so much upside. With a solid bullpen behind him, I think this team is going to be one of the best overall teams in the sport. I have this line at 89.5. I think that should be the true line. So I'm 4 wins off market here. It should be a 4-unit play, but I put the other unit in a spot that I think has a lot of value that we should look at. So it kind of relates to the Dodgers because, I mean, what are we going to say here? The Dodgers have built one of the best teams I've ever seen. So basically, I think the Diamondbacks are definitely the best or the second best team in the National League West. So I put 3.5 units on over 85.5 wins, and I would take that up to 86.5. I know the line has moved. Right, I would just lower your unit size slightly. And then the second bet, exact finish in the National League West. Dodgers finish first, Diamondbacks finish second, plus 200, risking 1 units on that. So in total, Diamondbacks over 85.5 wins, risk 3.15 units at minus 105 would take to 86. And then exact finish, Dodgers, D-backs, plus 200 in the National League West. All right, let's move to our next one. The Boston Red Sox are coming off a mediocre season. They finished 81-81 with a plus 4 run differential, definition of average. To rectify this boilerplate roster, they had one of the best off seasons in the sport. In a weakened American League East and a weak American League, the Red Sox have as good of a chance of any team to be one of the best in all of the American League. Big additions and subtractions. This team made a boatload of transactions this offseason, but let's start with the subtractions, right? They let 2 relievers walk, Kenley Jansen and Chris Martin. Both threw about 50 innings to respectable ERAs in the 3s. Not significant blows to the squad, but I kind of wish they still had them, but it's okay. They lost Nick Pivetta, tossed 145 innings for them last year with an ERA above 4. The most significant loss, I think, though, is Tyler O'Neill. right? He hit 31 home runs in 113 games. We can't overlook these subtractions, but to be honest with you, we kind of can because of how good the additions are. The Red Sox ponied up and traded for Garrett Crochet, a flamethrower due for a monster season on the mound. They needed a legit ace in their rotation, and I believe they found it in Garrett Crochet. The left-hander led all of Major League Baseball in strikeouts per nine at 12.88, the most among any starter with a minimum of 130 innings. Now, Crochet threw 148, but I wanted to include Skeens just to show you. 12.88 for Crochet, 11.5 for Skeens. He pitched to a 3.58 ERA, which is solid, but plenty of room to grow because that stupid White Sox defense that went 41 and 120, or 41 and 121 because there's a 162 game schedule, didn't do him any favors. Look at his ERA predictors, right? Look at those underlying numbers. FIP, XFIP, Sierra, expected ERA, all of them, low twos. They also added Alex Bregman, right? Based on his swing path, Bregman is a perfect fit for Fenway Park. Line drive hitter is going to pepper the monster with doubles. Bregman's career stats in Fenway Park, you've probably already heard about them, but they're legendary. In 21 career games, Bregman is slashing 375, 490, 750 with a 1240 OPS. He ranks number one in Fenway Park history in OPS. Career, ever, with at least 75 plate appearances. You know who's next? Hall of Famer Frank Robinson with an 11.88 OPS. Incredible. At Fenway Park. Not only is this bat a perfect fit, but he's won a Gold Glove at third base last season, whether it's second or third. Bregman is a fantastic addition. And they also added our guy, Walker Buehler. I mean, you can look at last year's stats and you could be worried, but I would be bullish on Buehler in 2025. He was recovering from Tommy John surgery, and then we saw vintage Walker Buehler in the playoffs for the Dodgers. Now he goes to Boston to team up with Andrew Bailey's pitching lab, one of the best pitching coaches in all of baseball. I believe he's going to bounce back in a big way. They did lose two relievers, but they added two back, right? Liam Hendricks returns from his hard-fought win over cancer. Got to root for that guy. And then they also signed Aroldis Chapman, still throwing fuel, and Justin Wilson. And Hendricks and Chapman can form a fearsome duo in the back end. Justin Wilson, he's not that good, but he'll provide filler innings. A notable addition also, it's not a trade or a signing or anything. They just get him back from the ILs. Lucas Giolito, recovering from TJ, giving the Red Sox a six-man rotation with plenty of upside. Overall, the Red Sox had a great offseason, one of the best in all the sport, and should capitalize that in 25. Now, let's talk about the players I'm high on, because the Red Sox, of course, have a core of elite players. Rafael Devers is never going to stop terrorizing opposing pitchers. Jarren Duran, one of the most valuable players in all of baseball last year. Garrett Crochet, who we're going to talk about later. I have a specific bet on him. And Tanner Houck form an excellent duo at the top. Then you only bring in Alex Bregman. Or not only bring in. Adding Alex Bregman only brings more fuel to the fire, right? So here are a few more players that I think are going to elevate the Red Sox above their win total. Tristan Casas. I think this is the year he takes that leap to be one of the better first basemen in all of baseball. We already ranked him in our top 10. I think he even goes a little bit higher. He's not going to add much defensively, right? The bat is where the value is. 27 games as a rookie, 20% better than the league average hitter by WRC+. First full season in 2023, 30% better with 24 home runs. Gets off to a hot start in April last season, puts up at a 1,003 OPS. Short-lived, though. Right, went down with a rib injury on April 20th. When he returned, didn't look healthy, only put up a 750 OPS or higher in August and September. Kind of a lost year for him, but now he's back and healthy. And the reason I love him so much is because he has such a high floor. 6'5", 245-pound frame. He's got plenty of power, but he pairs it with that excellent eye and discipline approach right at the plate. A career 14.2% walk rate. That's the sixth highest in baseball since he debuted in 2022 with a minimum of 800 plate appearances. He makes well above average swing decisions, and with a career 45.6% hard hit rate, the damage is coming as long as he stays healthy. Next up on the players I'm high on list, Brayan Bello, starting pitcher. Now, if he reaches his full potential this season, the Red Sox are going to have one of the best rotations in the sport. Right? It's crazy to think that Brayan Bello got the opening day nod in 2024. That's how improved the Red Sox are. And now he's likely to be the fourth best pitcher in the rotation. But let's look at what happened last year because it wasn't that great. He made a pitch usage tweak last season and it didn't work. Bello benched his four-seam fastball, just stopped throwing it, siding with kind of the heavy sinker approach to pair with a slider and a changeup. Made sense to do so. The data on his heater was not very good. So the standard change is just focus on your better pitches. But in the first half, he pitched to a 5.32 ERA with a 4.48 slug against him. Right, that's not any good. Then brings back the fastball. He's not throwing it all the time, but just mixing it in. And from then on, for the rest of the season, pitched to a 3.47 ERA in that second half with a 3.21 slugging percentage against him. Bello is still young, so if these changes can just lead to a consistent plan of attack, he can finally just relax a little bit and trust his stuff. And another reason I think Bello is going to perform is infield defense, because this is a high ground ball pitcher. Improved middle infield defense is going to be big here. The Red Sox are getting Trevor Story back at third. Remember, he put up 2 outs above average and 2 defensive runs saved in just 26 games last year. And then probably Alex Bregman at second. The Red Sox, they haven't had a consistent up-the-middle duo. Red Sox fans, do we remember since Xander Bogaerts and Dustin Pedroia in 2016? Red Sox fans, what else has there been? Next player up is actually in the bullpen, and his name is Garrett Whitlock. Now, the Red Sox bullpen, as you could probably tell from this entire video, it's their weakness, right? But with Garrett Whitlock back in the fold, I think that makes the unit a little bit more enticing. Whitlock's only issue is health, as he's been highly effective as a reliever since he's kind of transitioned from being a starter to reliever more lately in the rotation when needed, but it's just led to injuries. The Red Sox are more loaded than they've been in a while in this rotation, so they don't need him here. So now solidify a bullpen role and hopefully stay healthy. And in the bullpen, Whitlock has put up a 2.75 ERA, 2.99 FIP as a reliever in 2022, 1.96 ERA, 2.84 FIP in 2021. So his stuff is going to massively play up in the bullpen, and just like it has, right? It's a proven commodity. I feel much better about the Red Sox bullpen now that he is in there and knows his role, and he's very effective. All right, let's look at the Red Sox offense. They had a top 10 offense in baseball last year. They finished 7th in OPS as a squad and a 3-way tie for 10th in WRC+. It was a dynamic attack, right? They hit for power. They were 7th in home runs. They stole plenty of bases. They were 9th in that. They did it all while only 3 players recorded 500 or more plate appearances. The lineup was littered with weaknesses and injuries, but now I'm kind of hard-pressed to find any. Jarren Duran, arguably best left fielder in Major League Baseball. Rafael Devers, arguably top 3. Not arguably, is a top 3 third baseman in Major League Baseball. Alex Bregman, amongst one of the best second basemen in baseball. We already spoke at length about Tristan Casas. Masataka Yoshida, fine DH option, who hopefully can build off his 131 WRC plus that he put up in the second half of last year. And Wilyer Abreu, in right field, was a Rookie of the Year finalist. These 6 hitters, they have 6 of them projected by Fangraphs to have a 100 WRC plus or higher, so to be better than a league average hitter, which not many offenses, I've gone through them all, can replicate. Trevor Story could be kind of labeled as a weakness, but that's only because of his difficulties staying on the field. When he does play, he's still a really good defender. It can hit probably at a league average rate, maybe a little bit below. I think he'll probably end up between the 95 to 105 kind of WRC plus. And maybe he gets more and maybe he gets less, but I think it should be around there, right? But due to his defensive acumen, I think as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be a 3-win player this year. Ceddanne Rafaela, 15 home runs, 19 stolen bases last year while playing solid defense in center field. We'll see kind of what happens with him. He's very dynamic. He could explode. He could kind of drop back, but they just have so many prospects. But we'll talk about that later, especially a guy like Roman Anthony. And then they have Connor Wong at the catching position, who's coming off a career year. He was great last year, but data kind of tells us he's going to take a little bit of a step back. But even if he does, he's a fine catching option. But like I said, the Red Sox have so much freaking firepower coming up the pipeline. Trevor Story goes down, call up Christian Campbell, right? Move Alex Bregman over to shortstop. Christian Campbell is one of the best prospects in baseball. He's projected to have a 119 WRC plus next year in the majors. Or let's say Ceddanne Rafaela can't handle center field anymore. Move Duran there. And then you bring up Roman Anthony. Or you could play Roman Anthony in center, right? He is the best overall prospect in baseball. And then, of course, you have Marcelo Meyer. Say Trevor Story goes down. You want to pull up Meyer instead. They can do that. All 3 of those guys are some of the best offensive prospects in the game. And then the bench, because of all these improvements, is much improved. Right, David Hamilton was starting at second base last year. Now he's a bench guy. Rob Refsnyder started all the time, mostly against lefties, and he's going to continue to do so because he's one of the better platoon bats against lefties in Major League Baseball. This lineup is better and deeper than it's been in a while. Watch out. And the starting pitching, again, is a big reason why I'm backing the Red Sox, right? We'll start with the pitcher that I'm most enamored with in all of baseball this year. All of baseball. Garrett Crochet. I'm going to run you through his elite numbers, but I highly recommend search Garrett Crochet highlights with the White Sox. You're immediately going to see why I'm writing about him. Garrett Crochet was a first-round pick out of Tennessee. Flashed a nasty pitch arsenal combined with an enormous frame on the mound. Control was in question, though. That's what got him relegated to the bullpen with the White Sox. But he told Chicago he wanted to be a starter, and in 2024, he got that opportunity. After pitching to a 3.02 ERA in 107 innings with 150 strikeouts in the first half, he was named an All-Star. And it wasn't just, oh, well, the White Sox needed All-Star, let's give it to Crochet. He was one of the best pitchers in baseball. He was the only qualified pitcher in baseball at the time, striking out over 12 guys per nine. He was at 12.52. So the strikeouts are just unbelievable. But at this point in the season, right, the White Sox are historically bad. So as any bad team does, they start to test the market for a trade, right? This leads to an innings limit, and Crochet and the White Sox had this internal dispute about it that lasted a lot of the second half, where he was limited to like 3 to 4 innings a start. Just wasn't him. It was a weird second half, but he still struck out 59 batters in 38 innings. After finishing with 146 innings last year, he struck out 209 batters and led all qualified pitchers with strikeouts per nine, and it wasn't even close. Again, we're going to talk about him in terms of a bet at the end. The White Sox defense, when looking at that 3.58 ERA, they did him zero favors. Zero. But we saw how talented he was. Among pitchers with at least 140 innings, he finished fourth in expected ERA, third in FIP, and first in XFIP. He is a lethal weapon and is 25 years old. Tarek Skubal was my Cy Young pick last year. Garrett Crochet is my Cy Young pick this year. But I'm probably not going to bet on his Cy Young odds because I find value in a better line, right? I'll tell you about that pick later. And then just going through the rest of the rotation, Tanner Houck emerged as the Red Sox best pitcher last season, pitching to a 3.12 ERA in 176 innings. He's one of the league's best ground ball guys, similar to Bayo, so he should get an additional boost from that infield defense. He goes from the ace now to the number 2. And then Walker Buehler, he can pitch to the level of an ace. He's a wild card, but I feel confident in backing. Can't forget, top 5 pitcher in the world in 2021 and showed flashes of his usual self in the playoffs. Back and healthy, working with Bailey. He's going to turn in a great season. I'm confident in it. We already spoke about Bayo, and then it's going to be between Lucas Giolito and Carter Crawford for the 5th spot. Crawford led the staff in innings last year, and he's a fine pitcher. And now he's battling for the 5th starter in this rotation. You see the improvements. And to round it out, we're going to talk about the bullpen, but we're going to make this one quick. Liam Hendricks, I think he's going to be good. Aroldis Chapman, I think he's going to be pretty good. Justin Slayton is another piece I like. And then, of course, Garrett Whitlock. The rest, right? But this bullpen, they finished 24th in ERA last year. I think they can outperform that. They'll probably be a bottom half bullpen. But the offseason also isn't over yet, so they can still address these positions of need. So my overall outlook and all the picks are, in a wide open American League, the Red Sox have as good a chance of any to make the leap. Orioles failed to address their rotation, and the Yankees had to create Juan Soto in the aggregate, Moneyball reference. The Blue Jays and the Rays, fine squads, but the Red Sox, way more upside. And I'm a Yankee fan, people. You know this. This team's dangerous. They already have a great offense, new and improved staff. I think they go over their win total, and I think they're a great bet to win the division. I have them at 88.5. That's what I think the true line is. So 2.1 units on over 86.5 wins, and also a half unit on the Red Sox to win the AL East at plus 440. And also MLB strikeout leader, Garrett Crochet, 11-1, risking an entire unit on it, right? Our best stat leader last year, the only one we bet, was Aaron Judge to lead the league in home runs. That cashed. This year, Garrett Crochet of the Boston Red Sox to lead Major League Baseball in strikeouts. Because if he's going to win the Cy Young, it's going to be because he strikes out 250 to 260 guys. I think he could do that. That's how elite the strikeout stuff is. Kind of similar to Spencer Strider was with the Braves. This guy's going to strike out the world. And now we don't even have Spencer Strider to go up against him because Spencer Strider is going to start the year on the IL. So I think Garrett Crochet is the prohibitive strikeout favorite, but he's not favorited. So that's why we got to bet him. So those are the picks, the first wave of MLB Futures. Hopefully everybody enjoyed. And if you've watched this far, smash the like button and comment some of your other favorite MLB Futures on BetMGM. The next wave of Futures will be out soon, so make sure to subscribe. And we'll see you on the other side. But remember, none of this was gambling advice, right?